Tana Mongeau. What did she do this time? This Halloween, she dressed up as a slutty version of JoJo Siwa. She posted this photo on Instagram and Twitter and captioned it Ho Ho Siwa. Keep in mind that ho is slang for being sexually promiscuous.
She's gone out of her way to tag the literal child in this post, just so that people could go and find her page from this photo.
A lot of people were upset and called Tana out for sexualizing an underage child. Tana instantly defended herself and said, "Hey guys, saw some tweets about my JoJo costume, and I just want to clarify before things get crazy. JoJo's a great friend of mine, and I would never intend to sexualize her. I literally think that anything like that is gross as It was just a slutty schoolgirl costume, Girl Scout, or cheerleader to me. I totally didn't see it that way and would never want to. I love JoJo and making crazy Halloween costumes, and she was telling me to do it. I just wanted to let you know my standpoint on that before I see anything else." Dawson also got involved in the drama when he retweeted her photo.
I don't know why you would. It's not a good picture.
People weren't having it, and one fan asked him to unretweet the picture. He apologized saying, "I'm sorry," but then justified and defended his actions by saying, "I obviously didn't think of it that way. I just love JoJo and Tana, so I thought it was funny, and I love that she dressed up as her because they're both friends of mine." In which Tana replied, 100% same. JoJo was telling me to do it. Don't want to send any bad message. I love her, and I didn't think of it that way. People were not impressed and said, "You're gonna rely on a 15-year-old to tell you whether something like that is okay?" No disrespect to JoJo. A child telling you it's okay doesn't make it okay. You're an adult and should know better. You should feel empowered to sexualize yourself as you please, but do not bring someone else's child directly into it. Well, a child told me to do it, so I, as an adult, listened and blamed it on her instead of taking responsibility. She is a minor, so whether you had her consent to dress like that and post it is irrelevant. You are the adult. You have the responsibility to act appropriately. Minors cannot give consent. I have 3 brain cells, and I knew that dressing up inappropriately as a 15-year-old and tagging her in the photo was wrong. Shane finally got the message and undid his retweet, and Tana removed the photo on Twitter. But she didn't remove the photo on Instagram. Tana decided to readdress the issue and finally apologized in a tweet saying, "I just want to reiterate again that I'm so sorry if my JoJo costume upset anyone in any way. I had no nasty or ill intentions." But then proceeds to defend herself again, saying, "JoJo is a good friend of mine who didn't have a problem. I didn't even see it like that because obviously that's gross and up to me, and I would never want to do that. I really was just like, oh, I'm dressing up in a costume inspired by her, etc. But I don't want anyone to perceive it that way, so lesson learned. I love JoJo and y'all and Halloween costumes and definitely think harder next year about all possibilities of a costume." Some people defended Tana and told her not to apologize, saying people are just too sensitive and can't take a joke nowadays. This is where it becomes an issue. Regardless of Tana's intent, she still contributed to the problem. The Minnesota Department of Health explains that negative sexualization condones and creates an appetite for sexual harassment and abuse, and further explains that watching is like acting to the brain. Studies of mirror cells in the brain show that brain circuits fire in the same way when we observe someone doing something as when we actually do it. Repeatedly viewing images of sexual violence desensitizes people to the awful nature of these acts. And this applies to Tana's photograph about JoJo. If no one called her out, she'd probably keep posting content like this, which would desensitize people to the awful nature of sexualizing children. So when Tana apologizes, just accept it. When you baby her and justify her screw-ups, you're feeding her blind support. And that doesn't help anybody. Like Not Peachy says, even people you look up to and support can do wrong sometimes. The fact you guys are telling her she doesn't need to apologize is just enabling the problem. Also, for JoJo and all the other children out there, they're still growing and need proper care during their sexual development. Psychologist Asa Dawn Brown explains, "A child's sexual development should be encouraged from a healthy perspective. A child should never be made a symbol of an unhealthy perspective." So you can see, intended or not, Tana contributed to the problem by depicting a minor as a sex symbol. Joke or not, we need to stop pushing these boundaries. It can normalize the issue and change our collective sense of what is acceptable. Shane's involvement in this shouldn't be excused either. When he retweeted her photo, that was a form of vicarious reinforcement. Psychologist Susan Krauss-Whitburn explains, "We start to model the behavior of individuals whose actions seem to be getting rewarded. In vicarious reinforcement, your tendency to commit a behavior that someone else gets praise or attention for increases almost as much as if you were actually getting the rewards yourself. unless the public figure who's acted out is thoroughly and utterly disgraced and then completely disappears from public view. Vicarious learning will occur in those exposed to that public figure's actions. Most of the time, though, these people do anything but disappear. After the usual mea culpas, the media forgive them, and we, the public, come away with the lesson that anyone can achieve redemption and make a profit at the same time. And that's exactly what happened here. It's also ironic how Shane said Jake Paul needed more no men in his life.
I just don't know who's around being like, don't post that. Don't post that.
Shane should have been that person for Tana in this situation, not enabling her. Even therapist Kati Morton says in an interview about Shane's character that as an empath, Shane needs to be more careful and set boundaries with his friends.
The thing that's important to remember, especially for someone like you, is that boundaries are necessary. Because, I know. Because, like, they'll just suck all the love and energy and support you have and leave you like...
Now I know you're going to pull the good parenting card on me, and that's truly a solid point. Master of Science and licensed therapist Catherine McCall says, protect the emotional life of your children and the sensitivities of their sexual development. If you wouldn't invite a person into your home to have dinner with your family, then her picture doesn't belong in your child's hands or on your family's TV or computer screen. I agree, 100%, but we also need to stop excusing celebrities for their wrongdoings. When they're wrong, they deserve to be called out as many times as needed until they learn. While nobody signs up to be a role model, you still can't ignore your impact on society, especially if you have a large following. Celebrities and public influencers are the ones influencing the descriptive norms that kids will be developing. They influence how kids view things in society. Like Shane said, with fame comes responsibility. Psychologist Azadeh LA reiterates this point by saying, don't play dumb. You are more media savvy than you let on. Own up to the fact that you are a role model, and then decide if the behaviors you're displaying for the masses lives up to who you want to be. Being a role model isn't a choice. We are all, to a greater or lesser extent, being observed by others, and thus have the capacity to influence others' choices. Celebrities just have a much wider audience and spotlight for this, and thus it is both a responsibility and a privilege that should not be dismissed. So, what are your thoughts on this? How do you feel about the impact online celebrities have on kids? What are some ways you help your kids or siblings stay grounded? Let me know in the comments below.